Well, Venezuela, once considered the fastest growing economy in Latin America, is now a place where people routinely go without food. The socialist nation is experiencing severe poverty and political unrest, and now members of the Chicago Teachers Union are praising the country after crowdfunding a visit there. The Chicago Tribune reporting 4 travelers calling themselves a delegation met with members of the Venezuelan government back in July, visited a commune, and wrote admiringly about the socialism while criticizing the U.S. So to talk about all of this insanity, as she calls it, Fox News contributor Rachel Campos-Duffy, you lived in Venezuela once, and you join us now. You'll also be on Outnumbered later today at noon. But what is your response to these teachers going to Venezuela to see how socialism has been implemented?
Well, what's interesting is they're trying to sort of backpedal. Well, they're a delegation. They weren't really with us. It's true that they crowdfunded and sponsored it themselves. But the president of that union was a member of the Socialist International Group. They actually passed a resolution as a union, sort of criticizing the sanctions that the Trump administration had on Venezuela and supporting the Maduro, dictatorship government there. So they clearly have an agenda, and they met with government officials and somehow came back with this idea that everything's fine in Venezuela. They actually said some things were better there than in the United States, echoing what Bernie Sanders once said before the you-know-what hit the fan in Venezuela, and we started to see 90% poverty rates. Bernie Sanders himself, another socialist, said, hey, the American dream can be found in Venezuela more than in the United States. So these teachers had an agenda. What's interesting is there are some union members that are upset about this, and they are Latinos. They are the Hispanic members of that union who are saying, hey, enough. And they're probably liberal, but they're saying, we know what's happening in Venezuela. 90% poverty rates. Women having, I'm pregnant right now, 30 weeks, breaks my heart. Women having to give away their child to a neighbor who can actually feed them better, or releasing them into the streets to feed for themselves. Families that were once middle class going through the garbage, women with professional degrees resorting to prostitution in Colombia to try and buy groceries and bring them back. These are this is what socialism does. And you're right, in your intro you said they were the #1, they were the treasure of the jewel of Latin America, the richest country, and now they are the poorest country in Latin America. It took 18 years to do it, but that's what socialism does.
It's just been so devastating to the country. The Chicago Teachers Union, you mentioned some union members are not happy about this, but the president of that union released a statement addressing the trip, saying, quote, members go all kinds of places in the summer. This was neither an official trip nor something that was funded by the union. This is a group of people who are members of the CTU who decided to go to Venezuela, but they're also still paid by Chicago taxpayers, right?
True, but let me tell you what's really dangerous. What's really dangerous is that these teachers come back from their trip and they go into your classroom and they talk to your kids. And this is the message. You might wonder, why are we talking about Venezuela? It's far away. Why do we care about Chicago? I don't live in Chicago. Here's why it matters. If you are not talking about socialism with your kids, I promise you, in their public schools, someone else is.
Right.
And you may think you're immune because you don't live in Chicago. I live in a little town in Wisconsin. I send my kids to Catholic school, and a lot of their curriculum normalizes socialism. Worse still, does complete blackouts on the death, the genocide, the repression that comes from socialism. So your kids are only hearing, equality, free, all these fun, nice-sounding buzzwords from the social justice world, and they're not hearing about the reality of it. That's the danger, and it's not just happening with Marxist professors at the university. It's, as you can see, the dirty little secret with socialists is they're starting younger and younger, indoctrinating your kids.
You're right on the money. One of the teachers who went on the trip said that she was wondering how educators incorporated the country's socialist movements into their curriculum. So that's certainly something they're bringing back.
Beware, parents, beware.
Again, you will be on Outnumbered at noon today. We look forward to seeing you.